energy costs are a big piece of the rising cost to live in the state of Rhode Island, and we need to address that. I'm the governor that shut down the bridge, and it probably should have been taken care of long before I got to be governor. Helena Folks, during the time that she was in charge of CVS, helped fuel and profited from an opioid epidemic. Together we will stand up to President Trump when he tries to take away Rhode Islanders' health care, food assistance, jobs, or programs that families rely on.
All right, affordability issues, the Washington Bridge rebuild, conflicts with the Trump administration, payroll problems, and more, all in a re-election year for Governor Dan McKee. He is our guest today.
Holding the powerful accountable from Washington, D.C. to right here in southern New England. This is 10 News Conference with Gene Valicenti.
Put your name in there.
Yeah, welcome to 10 News Conference. I'm Brian Crandall, in for Gene Valicenti this week. This is 10 News Conference. My guest today joining us is Governor Dan McKee. Governor, thanks for coming back on the show.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
It is an election year, so a lot of the topics we're going to talk about, whether they have to do with state government or politics, are kind of intertwined. There's back and forth between you and your primary opponent, so we'll probably bounce back and forth between the two. I did want to start today with a topic that we've covered for a couple months now, the payroll system issues facing state employees. The state rolled out in early December a new $95 million payroll system. It's had a bunch of problems. We reported with last week's payday, there were still issues with some employees missing money, not getting all their money in their paychecks. To be fair, the state doesn't. They report it and the state cuts them a check. But I've heard from the unions and employees that it's a big headache. What do you have to say to state employees about what's happening now? 3 months in, should it have been fixed by now?
So, Brian, it's very concerning. That's not only a payroll system that we pay for, but a full finance package. I think the clarifications there is very important. Both are very important to us in terms of operating the state. Both systems were far beyond their lifespan in terms of the usage. So we made that move. But yes, I put a letter in at the end of January to the DOA expressing my major concerns about making sure that we're doing everything we can to accommodate and to give the employees what they deserve, which was a paycheck. And I wrote another letter in early February, the same thing. So I'm not happy with where we are right now, and I lean on the side of the staff and the employees to make sure that they're getting the correct information so they can file the taxes, the correct information relative to their pay.
Right, because there was an issue with the W-2s. Corrected W-2s have now been sent out. I'm hearing from some workers, though, they're getting 3 and 4 things in the mail, so there's a bit of confusion. But you said your last letter to DOA, I mean, that was a month ago. Are you satisfied right now, today, with the response you're getting from your own administration as to how they're handling this situation and whether the fix is being done fast enough?
Until we have a system that operates fully functional for our employees, I'm not happy.
What are they telling you about when that's going to happen?
Well, we've been told that over a period of time that the payroll issues would work their way out. You know, the W-2, as you explained, was another situation where the staff and the employees that work really hard for our state. You just saw what happened in a recent snowstorm, right? There's around-the-clock operations, and it's really quality work. So until that is completely in a spot where the staff is feeling as though that they're getting what they need to get relative to the pay and all the things that relate to that, I'm not happy.
Should there be a higher level of accountability, whether within your own administration or with the contracting companies that one runs the system, one you hired to implement the system? Should there be more accountability on your end? Should somebody's feet be held to the fire?
Yeah, well, all options are open right now. Whether it's personnel that we have that are managing this in terms of the implementation, or the companies that are responsible for making sure that this long-term investment that we're making on behalf of the state really pays off, and I believe it will. But right now, there's bumps in the road, and all options are open relative to making sure that we put the pressure on the people who actually are managing it, and also the people who are providing the software that we're relying on.
And switching topics, but on accountability as well, the bridge, it always comes up, for more than 2 years now. The DOT director, Peter Alviti, his last day was last week. What do you say about the job he did on the bridge in particular during that span, both from what you know before the bridge was closed and after?
Well, first of all, the former director gave me his resignation letter. I accepted that, and so we're moving on at this point in time. Bob Rocchio is going to be a really good interim director. He proved that to be true when he managed, the larger part of the snowstorm, the largest snowstorm we've ever had. So I'm moving forward, Brian, relative to the fact that we have a contractor in place, we have the funding in place. I believe that we're holding the people accountable that did the inspections, just like you would with your doctor. If they gave you a misdiagnosis, you would certainly have issues with the doctors that give you the misdiagnosis. So we're proceeding, and under Bob Rocchio's leadership, I think that we're going to make a significant progress, and we're going to complete that bridge in a way that is going to be a benefit to the people in the state of Rhode Island.
You've already been criticized politically by your Democratic opponent, Helena Foulkes, in the primary. I'm sure it's going to be a major topic over the next 6 months before the primary that, she says Peter Alviti should have been fired. A lot of other people have said that. I mean, I asked you that from the very beginning. Are you worried that you hung on to him too long and that's going to become a political liability?
No, my job at the time, Ryan, was to make sure that we understood how we keep people safe, which we did, and that was a really key point for me. We kept people safe. We closed down the bridge. We determined after the fact that we closed down the bridge that we needed to take down that bridge and we needed to replace with a brand new bridge. And so that's all in progress, that's happening. And the continuity of getting that done, that was far more important to the politics that my opponent might be still, complaining about after the fact. The Director Alviti's no longer working with us, so I'm not sure exactly how my opponent's going to really, address that, other than the fact that we're going to build a bridge. We have an interim director in Bob Rocchio that's more than skilled to help us move that department along. We're going to continue doing all the improvements that we're doing in the state at a pace, quite frankly, that's faster than any time before that I've been governor in terms of building up bridges, putting new roads in place, and continuing doing that work. We're going to make sure that we're increasing our infrastructure rankings as we have since I've been governor. We're up 7 or 8 spots since I've been governor on national rankings in terms of our infrastructure. We're going to keep that going.
If the bridge and your handling of it is a central issue of the campaign, are you comfortable with that and defending your record? It seems like you are, but are you ready for that to be a central focus and pinpointing
of course.
Your record?
I mean, my opponent has demonstrated over and over again that she's put politics or profits over people. I did the reverse, right? I kept people safe on the bridge. I feel comfortable about the fact that what we did once we understood that the bridge needed to come down has been done in a really professional way. We have one of the top bridge builders in the country that is going to be building that bridge. As my opponent has mentioned, that we're behind Maryland in her opening, announcement that she was going to be running. That's not true. So there's many inaccuracies that I'm looking forward to the campaign to correcting the inaccuracies.
Well, let me play a clip from Helena Foulkes real quick on both the payroll issue, the W-2s, and the bridge, because it seems like that'll be a central issue.
It's nonstop incompetence from the governor, really. You look at the Washington Bridge, the W-2s are really affecting people.
All right, so she says incompetence. What's your response?
Well, my record defies that comment, right? I mean, take a look at what we're doing on education. Take a look at what we're doing on raising incomes. Take a look at what we're doing in terms of health care. We're going to be closing on those 2 hospitals, I think, within the next few hours.
Today's Friday.
Today's Friday. So, I mean, that took a great deal of competence to make sure that we were working through the bonding. Our staff was able to do that. I've been able to staff up with real professional people. So, yeah, that issue is just one of the inaccuracies that my opponent's going to keep on putting out there. And I'm going to put out there, look what we've done on pensions for our veterans. They're gone. Social Security right now, I've got a proposal to eliminate the Social Security on the budget this year. A child tax credit that has never happened before, and an energy proposal that, quite frankly, would help save our ratepayers $1 billion. That's gaining a lot of traction. So the reality of what we've done, I'm really comfortable with the fact that we have a record that is outstanding. We're building things at a rate that's never been done before, investing in Rhode Island College, CCRI, Rhode Island URI. Look, Yes, I'll come up for a breather, but I'm going to tell you, the list is significantly
Well, and I
long,
do-
and when the
we-
record comes
we-
out, it'll defy any criticism by my opponent relative to competence.
We do have more time, and I do want to get more into the campaign and more of some of those budget issues and taxing issues that you talked about. But before we do go to break, one quick question, wrapping up on DOT. You mentioned Bob Rocchio, the interim director. He's been at DOT for a long time, but you said when Peter Alviti announced his retirement resignation that you would have a national search. Is an internal candidate anybody from inside DOT on the table, or do you feel like you have to go outside and not pick anybody who had anything to do with the bridge?
We'll do a search, a broad-based search, and then we'll pick the best person that I think that is the most qualified to keep the work going that is going right now, Brian, right? I mean, every blue bridge is a new bridge out there. We've done more bridges. We've done more roadways. Our record is going to sustain ourselves and my re-election, which will happen not only in September, but it will follow in November.
All right, more with Governor Dan McKee coming up here on 10 News Conference after this short break.
Thank you for turning to 10, your news leader. 10 News Conference with Gene Valicenti continues right now.
And we are back now with more with Governor Dan McKee. I'm Brian Crandall in for Gene this weekend. Governor, as we mentioned, it's an election year in your first segment. Obviously, we're kind of bobbing and weaving in and out of election stuff. Helena Foulkes, your Democratic main primary challenger, House Speaker Joe Shekarchi announced a few weeks ago he was not going to jump into the race. And this week, kind of the big news was that the Attorney General, Peter Neronha, who I think it's well documented, there's no love lost between the two of you, announced an endorsement of Helena Foulkes. Let's play a little bit of that.
Rhode Island needs today and into the future is strong, capable leadership. This is not a state that can afford to keep muddling around over the next 4, 8, 10, 15 years. Rhode Island will always have its economic and other challenges. We know that from our history. But bold, new leadership can take us forward and make us better. And Helena can do that.
All right, so Attorney General Neronha says muddling around. Again, he's been a frequent critic of yours over the past couple of years.
That's being kind.
That's being kind.
Yes.
And muddling around, I think, was probably the strongest thing he said yesterday, which I think in giving his past comments, he could have said stronger things. What's your response to him jumping in? You've long said you thought the two of them were
Well, this
together.
election's not going to depend on Attorney Generals have been trying to take me out of office. Didn't vote for me in 2022. Trying to, on the record, saying he's going to do everything he can to take me out of office. He's putting politics over people here, and he's also hooking his wagon right now to someone who failed leadership. It's going to resulted into a Department of Justice and a U.S. Attorney's lawsuit against basically against the leadership on the opioid issues. So he's hooking his wagon to someone who he's actually spoke out against in terms of her failed leadership relative to the opioid addiction. So and the epidemic. So all I can say is that he's hooking his wagon to someone who actually does put profits over people. He's hooking his wagon to somebody who has actually, fired thousands of people. Once you went to Hudson, so he can be in that spot. But it's very clear the only reason he's there is because he wants to take me out of office.
And part of let's focus on that first. I'll get to the opioid issue and Helena Foulkes' leadership at CVS in just a second. But is it the ILO investigation where things went south between you and the Attorney General? He investigated that deal at the school consulting contract a couple of years ago. He issued a report that admonished you but said there was no criminal charges. Is that where it went wrong?
Look, he came up empty. He's embarrassed he came up empty.
Well, I don't know if he came up, didn't criminally charge you, but he said you should have known.
He was saying that he handed it over to the FBI and to the U.S. Attorney, who came back and said there was no cause for any charges in that case. So he came up empty. He's embarrassed about it. He went out. I called him out on that issue. So look, he's hooking his wagon to a corporate person who put profits over people, and he's doing the same thing. He's putting his political agenda over the best interest of the people in the state of Rhode Island.
Okay, so I don't want to belabor the point. There was no criminal charges, but I think he said you shouldn't. In his potential terms, you should have known better, or that the optics, at least, of that
That's
deal
his
didn't look good.
opinion. And remember where he came from on that. And it's the same place he's going here. He's putting his politics ahead of what his very principles are relative to the CVS lawsuit that he put in place in 2015 and his positions on my opponent in terms of the fact her failed leadership is documented, as an executive person in the lawsuit, that her failed leadership turned a blind eye, and more pills were sold, and more people were addicted, and more people died, and more families were impacted, and she's unwilling to apologize for that lack of leadership.
Just to take people back a little bit, we're talking, right, the Attorney General has sued and reached settlements with opioid manufacturers. We're talking about Helena Folks, your challenger who ran CVS starting in 2013 while the opioid crisis was in full swing. She says she got there after it started. I do want to play a clip from her because she has defended herself against this for quite some time. So here's what Helena Folks had to say about the opioid issue just this week.
In 2013, this crisis was raging, to Peter's point. I came in as president of CVS in early 2014. I knew full well what I was facing. And under my watch, we had an almost 40% reduction in opioids dispensed. And that's because we did more than anyone in our industry in the country on this particular topic. Also under my watch, we walked away from cigarette sales. We were doing $2 billion a year in cigarette sales. So the idea that we put profits over people flies in the face of that kind of decision. And as Peter said, this was a really difficult time, and I don't want to lose the fact that a lot of families were really affected by this. I don't have a family member per se who was affected, but a lot of friends, some friends who lost their children to it. So I take that very seriously, and as much as I can, I'm proud of what I did, but there's always things you learn in moments like this and more you want to do.
All right, so before we get your response, so this was an issue 4 years ago in the campaign. CVS has reached big money settlements over this issue. But since the last election, Rhode Island's own U.S. attorney filed a lawsuit against CVS. Didn't name Helena Folks, but it was during the time that she was there over the company ignoring its own red flags on opioids. But you heard what she had to say there. That's been her defense, and it may have
it's a
been
fairy
a little
tale.
bit.
She's recreating history. The fact of the matter is that DOJ, the Department of Justice, and the U.S. Attorney do not agree with her story. That is the reason why they filed a lawsuit. And during the bulk of the time that lawsuit covers is the time that she was president. And also, she was very involved with she wasn't new to CVS at the time that she became president.
And just to wrap this up, this is your common pushback on her when she criticizes you is the opioid issue at CVS. Do you think this is going to stick with voters?
Absolutely. It's going to certainly stick with the people who hear that explanation that have lived through an addiction issue, and I've talked to many of them because I was front and center pushing back on the manufacturers and the distributors when I was a lieutenant governor. I'm the one who brought all the municipalities together to file a lawsuit out in Cleveland. So, look, I know this territory very well. I know who her failed leadership has hurt, and the DOJ does not agree with our Attorney General at this point in time. That lawsuit's going to move forward. And read the 93-page document, Brian. If you read the 93-page document, it's going to see that over and over again that the people who were in charge of CVS turned a blind eye to the problem, and this time frame is right in the center of the time that she was running that company. So if you believe that story, I'll sell you some ocean property in Arizona. I mean, there's no way in the world that story is going to fly during this campaign.
All right, Governor, we'll wrap this segment right there, but we'll be right back with more with Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee right after this on 10 News Conference.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
And we are back now for our final segment on 10 News Conference with Governor Dan McKee. Governor, we want to get into some of your policy proposals from this year's budget specifically. That's where it lays out. First, the new thing this year, millionaires tax. You're proposing Rhode Island's top tax bracket goes from 6% to 9%. Why do you feel like it's time to do that now? Is it just the state needs the money?
Well, it's the Trump administration. One thing, we had to layer in $40 to $50 million to offset some of the things that are causing some health care problems, healthcare costs. And then also, it was timely to let's get rid of the Social Security tax. But everybody in the state knows that Social Security tax is a reason why some people leave our state. Let's take that away. We put a plan in to do that, in our budget. Let's get a child tax credit to every family, not just some families.
Right. Before it was kind of like it depended. It wasn't the same for everybody. Your plan is now to make it basically everybody gets
everyone.
one.
There's people who have retired before 67 in our state that are making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 that are getting fully taxed on their Social Security. That's wrong. And the ARP said so. And so we're seeing some tremendous response from the people in the state of Rhode Island at these hearings, being at the State House, saying let's eliminate the Social Security tax. Let's make sure we put a child tax credit in. And then let's get $1 billion worth of savings for the energy. They had a big time hearing yesterday, 150 letters coming in. Let's attack this energy issue and support the budget item that I put in this year's budget.
So the cynic would say, is this just good stuff to throw out there in an election year? We're going to cut certain taxes, give people a break.
People want the tax relief. They don't
know from my conversations.
Okay. He keeps on butting in, Look, we've done multiple things. I've finalized the elimination of the car tax since I've been governor. We put a tangible tax relief in since I've been governor. It helps every business in the state of Rhode Island. We've eliminated the pension tax on veterans. These are all things that were done during the time that I've been in office. So this is no different. It's time to eliminate the Social Security tax. People agree with that. We're one of the only 8 states in the country that tax our Social Security. A child tax credit, instead of just an exemption on your tax return, would you have to make a certain amount of money to do that? Let's across the board provide some relief for the families. Let's make sure that we're doing this energy thing. This is a big deal, this energy thing, Brian. We have $1 billion of savings because the Trump administration has now put in regulations and other decisions as he started to shut down our offshore wind project that is going to make it virtually impossible for us to reach the goals that were set on the Act on Climate. We need to reset those just like Massachusetts is doing right now, just like New York is doing right now, just like Connecticut is doing right now. That's our competition. We need to control the cost of utility costs for the families and the people that live in the state right now.
You're blaming the Trump administration. Is part of that because I think Republicans in the state have said that Act on Climate in Rhode Island went too far in terms of trying to enact green energy initiatives that were too costly, too fast. Is this an admission that it was too much too soon and you've got to claw back on some of that to give people savings on their bills?
Let me give you a real example of how the Trump administration's policies impact in the Act on Climate. Right now, for the Act on Climate to reduce the emissions, you have to get 13,000 plus electric vehicles on the roads every year. We have 500 for sale in the state of Rhode Island right now, and the Trump administration has turned the policy so that they're actually shutting down the plants for the electric vehicles. Without that sales on the electric vehicles, let's be realistic. We can't reach that number at the time frame that we have put out. At the time we did it, it was somewhat doable, and we were going to do everything we can. We're not backing away from the Act on Climate. We're just being realistic about it. And now, in terms of the energy costs, what we have in place, we're not going backwards on the net metering. Those are agreements that were made. But going forward, we need to adjust the net metering, reimbursement rates. We got to lower the energy efficiency cost that's comparable to what's happening in other bordering states. That can save millions and millions of dollars. We're talking about $1 billion of savings. I can tell you the ratepayers in this state, they want this action, and I'm providing the leadership to give them it.
We've got about 30 seconds. How much of this race do you think is going to be on who says they're going to push back on Donald Trump harder? Or do you think you need some more conservative folks to fall under your tent?
Well, we're only going to follow what is happening, right, in terms of Washington. It is putting more on us, but I believe that Rhode Island, we need to follow the plan that we have in place, the Rhode Island 2030 plan, where we're helping our kids at a rate in our education faster than ever before, where we're raising incomes for families at a rate that's significantly higher. Over 36, almost 36,000 private sector jobs have happened since I've been governor. Our healthcare investments are strong, and we're putting people to work building things at a rate that we never before. That is what's going to get it over top. And this is a fight worth having, and it's a fight worth winning, and it's really important for the people in the state of Rhode Island that I'm reelected in September and in November.
That's the closing argument from Governor Dan McKee there. 6 months away from the primary, though, so that does it for us on 10 News Conference for now. The #1 and longest running political show in Southern New England. A reminder, you can watch all of our interviews on turnto10.com and on the NBC 10 WJAR YouTube page. Thank you for joining us.